Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City. In this video, I'll be sharing with you my 5-step process on how to create a LEGO MOC from scratch. A MOC refers to my own creation, and that basically means your own creation that you build out of LEGO. It could be something completely brand new, or it could be a variation of an existing set. You could also combine different sets together to create something brand new. In a previous video, I shared several easy techniques on how to build MOCs. This particular technique that I'm sharing today is a bit more advanced, but it's the one that I use most often. I'll be using 2 examples to illustrate my process: the Old Time Bakery and the taco stand. If you like, I suggest that you pause this video and watch those 2 videos if you have not. The links are in the description. Here's step 1 for building a LEGO MOC from scratch. The first step is the concept. You must have a concept of what you want to build. You must have an idea of what you want to build. And I think most people, when they embark on building a MOC, basically know what they have in mind. They know they want to build a hospital, a fire station, a library, or a police station, whatever it might be. It could be small, it could be big. But basically, you must have a clear concept of what you want to build. And the concept should be quite defined as well. So besides just thinking about let's say the buildings such as a fire station or a hospital, you've got to figure out how large you think you want it to be, what style you want it to be, and what kind of architecture you want it to be. If you're building a vehicle, once again, you need to know what sort of vehicle are you building. Are you building a sports car, a regular car, a van, a caravan, or a train? You need to know what you're going to build, and you need to roughly know how it looks like. The clearer the vision you have for your build, the easier it'll be for you to build it out of LEGO. LEGO has thousands of different parts, so you need to think about how the parts come together to form your physical build. That's why it's important for you to be able to visualize your concept so that you can think about how the parts come together to form that shape or that particular look of your build. For example, if you're building a car and you want it to look sleek with curved portions, you need to think what curved parts there are in LEGO and see how they can be used and come together to form those parts. Because many of the primary parts in LEGO are straight edges, so you really need to be creative to think how to create those curved components. So the clearer the vision for your build is, the easier it will be for you to build it. Step 2 is research. Research involves looking for photographs or videos of the object you want to build. Even if it's an imaginary fantasy object like an alien planet or spaceship, you still can find interpretations and ideas to give you inspiration and also ideas for your own build. Let me give you an example. When I was building my taco stand, I did a Google image search for taco stands and taco stores, and I found a whole bunch of different stores. But I can tell you, nothing came close to what I had envisioned or what I wanted. I can tell you I didn't really have a clear idea of how I wanted the stand to look exactly, so I was really looking for inspiration or a model that I could model my LEGO build after. After I searched for taco stands, I looked for burrito stands, which is kind of related, but once again I couldn't find anything I liked. So I looked for pizza stands and pizza stalls, again just looking for kind of the same genre type of stalls. And I did come across one particular stall which I thought fit what I wanted to create, and that's the distinctive roof design which I modeled after for my taco stand. So if you're looking for a build such as a library, look for ideas or images of a library and in the style that you want to build. So if it's an old-time library, look for pictures of an old-time or a library of old architecture. If you're looking for a modern building, look for modern buildings, and you don't just have to confine yourself to libraries. Look for similar things like museums as such, as these often have similar architecture, or at least they serve the same purpose. Now here's a really important tip when you do research. When you try to find images or photographs or videos of the item you want to build, don't look for LEGO MOCs first. I know it's very tempting because you want to see what other people have built, but trust me, when you're building a MOC from scratch, it's best to find photographs and videos of the actual item, real life versions of the thing you're trying to build. And the reason is this: you want inspiration, you want ideas to create your own MOC and to create your own build. Often, if you look at other people's Legos MOCs first, you'll be so influenced by the design, especially if it's good. You know, you see a great MOC, and there are really many great MOCs out there. You see it, and your mind just gets fixated on that, or it's on the back of your mind, especially if you see a really cool technique or cool build. And this often prevents your creative process. It actually prevents you from coming up with your own great idea, mainly because you're kind of biased and restricted in the sense that you think, wow, the thing you saw was so great, you want to build that because you think that's the best Lego version of that build. But trust me, often, don't underestimate yourself. You'll be able to come up with really creative builds, so you don't want to be influenced by other people's builds at this time. So I suggest doing your initial research by looking for the real-life version of the build. Only after you've done that, come up with your own Lego version of that build. Think of the techniques, think of how it's going to come together, and visualize that. Either draw it out, use a digital designer, or even take some bricks just to come up with a rough pattern. Only after you've come up with kind of a first draft or a clear idea of what you want to build in the Lego form, do you do some research and look at what other people have built in terms of Lego MOCs. Now you can compare your build and see how you did. You'll be surprised. Sometimes you come up with a completely different approach or a build design which is better than what's out there, and you aren't influenced or pre-biased by what you've seen before. So when you have come up with your idea, you cross-reference it with other Lego builds out there. You can borrow some ideas or improve on it, or basically combine elements to create a really unique build. So that's a very important tip, and I think it's for any creative process, not just with Lego. For example, when I'm designing illusions, because professionally I do design theatrical illusion props for illusionists, I do my best to not look at other illusion designs if I can help it. And I just look around for other designs such as furniture, machinery, equipment, and then I come up with illusion design, and then I hunt to see if there's something similar out there in the illusion world. And I found that's the best way to really be creative. Step 3, I think, is a very useful tip, and that is to find a starting point for your build. Or this could also be a feature element that is the focus of your build and the central feature that you build everything around. And let me give you a specific example. For my taco stand, I knew that I wanted to have a giant 3D taco sign. So that was my starting point, and that would be a feature element of this build because it's very distinctive, and anyone who sees this build can tell, well, this is obviously a taco stand. So that was my starting point, and I start with that, and then I create the rest of the build around it. It makes it much easier to have a starting point, because anytime we start a build, if we think of it, especially from scratch, because it's abstract, if you just try to build everything together, it's going to be very difficult. You have just too many ideas floating around all together, and it's hard to build different parts or different parts simultaneously at the same time. So identifying a single feature within your build really helps. And this applies to even a larger city. So if you have a city that you intend to build, think of a central feature in your city. Is it a town square? Is it a beach, as is in my case? Is it a large skyscraper? Or whatever it might be, start with that central feature and then build your city around it. It generally works out much better this way. Another example from my own builds is the old-time bakery. And the starting point was this brick oven. And this was suggested by Brick Bakery, actually. He suggested I build this oven. So I went about building this oven, and it was my starting point because I needed to make sure that a loaf of bread would fit inside, and I designed it and I built it. But as I was building it, I felt, it's a waste just to build this oven. It should be part of a bigger build or a central feature of a bigger build. And that's why I came up with the overall little cottage or old-time bakery that was built around it. So once again, I started with something and I continued the build around it. And because I started with a specific look of that brick oven, it gave me an idea or inspiration of how I wanted the rest of the build to be, so they will complement the central feature or my starting point. So that's tip 3. Always have a starting point or a central feature for your build or your MOC that you can start with. Step 4 is the actual hands-on practical part, and that's where you build, rebuild, and build again. This is where you actually take bricks and start putting them together to create your MOC. If you don't have physical bricks, you could use a digital designer to put your build together. In my case, I always work with physical bricks. Even if I don't have the right color or I'm unsure of the color that I'm going to use, I'll just take bricks and put it together. The whole point is to create a starting point in terms of an overall structure so that I can see the physical form of the build and compare it to what I imagined. Sometimes it's two completely different things. I'd envision one thing, but when I actually start to try to build it, it doesn't look the same. It could be due to the proportion of the bricks, it could be due to the shapes or the parts that I may or may not have. But you just need to build. And after you build, you have to rebuild and you have to build again, because you're always improving and you're always trying to, make it better. With my taco stand, I started off, I think, building it in one color in a darker tone, and it didn't work because after I built it, it just didn't work for whatever reason. So I decided to change it to a light tan color, and I typically do not like this light tan brick for buildings. I don't know why, it's just a personal bias. Maybe I just think of this light tan color as sand for a beach. But I decided to try it anyway, because often when you come to a stumbling block, you want to try something completely different. There's no point going down the same route that you're trying, and if it doesn't succeed, if you just keep going down that route, there's no point, because you will often still just fail. So one trick I often do when it comes to idea generation or problem solving, if something doesn't work for a while and I've really tried it for some time, I will abandon that route and try something completely different. And when I mean completely different, means really 180-degree change. You come from it from a different approach, and often you come up with alternate solutions that you would not have considered before if you had continued going down the previous route. So in the case of my taco stand, I changed the color and I switched in this color, which I usually don't use, and it turned out better. And I rebuilt it with these light tan bricks, and the overall build did work well, and it really worked and was complemented by the dark red and brown roof pieces. So it did turn out better, and that's because I built and I rebuilt. The final step 5 is adding details to the build to express the concept. In my opinion, this is what differentiates a good build from a great build, and this is what really makes your MOC excellent if you put in the details. A lot of times people stop at the basic structure. Once they get it out, they're really happy and they think their job is done. In my opinion, getting up that basic structure or look of the build is only 50% of the overall project or the MOC. The other 50% are the details that you add. The most obvious would be to add in external details. This could be changing different bricks to change up the colors, or adding some modified masonry bricks so that it looks more textured. It includes landscaping for the outside, adding some elements maybe like lampposts, trash bins, benches, plants, bushes, whatever external elements you can think to make your build more rich or more detailed. Of course, I'm talking about buildings here, but if you are building, let's say, vehicles, again, you can think about the color. How do you make it from a solid color to add in some colored detail just to make it more interesting? Or could you add in some modifications like spoilers, bumpers, vent ducts? I don't know, I'm not really into vehicles, but maybe you could change the tires up, whatever the case, just to add items to make it more interesting. Those are external details. Now, if you are thinking about buildings or structures, you can check out a video I did on how to build an epic Lego garden. In this video, I go through my entire process of how I build an exterior or landscaping for the hillside house. That might be useful if you are thinking about details for a building. From the exterior, the next step is to go inside the build and to decorate the inside. Detail it with furniture, wall decorations, ceiling fans or lights, flooring, whatever you can to make the build more interesting. And you want to choose decorations or items that express the concept of your build. So if you're building a space station, obviously you want to have instruments, different panelings, and all sorts of things that would tell you this is a space station. If you're building a restaurant, you want to have a kitchen, you want to have a dining area, and all the things that make it a restaurant. The more details that you can put in, the better your MOC will be. The final detail that gives life to your MOC are minifigs, and I'm all for adding as many minifigs as logically possible and as physically possible to your MOC, because this brings out the life in the build and also helps express the concept even better. I advocate writing a story for your build. It could be a simple storyline, or better yet, there can be a backstory to the build. For example, if in my case of my bakery, I thought of the backstory in terms of who owns the bakery. So I thought of an old-time couple, or not really old-time couple, but a couple owning this old-time bakery. The husband would be the chef, and the lady would basically be the one selling the different goods that are being baked and sold. So I thought of, since it's an old-time bakery, their outfit or the torso and leg prints should reflect that, and that helped me choose the minifigs. The same thing with my taco stand. I went even further. Besides a backstory, I came up with an elaborate storyline for this particular MOC. It's Breaking Bad inspired. I won't spoil it here. You can watch the video. But it's because of the intricate backstory and the storyline that allowed me to choose the right minifigs for the MOC. So everything makes sense in the context of the story, and it also makes it easier for me to choose minifigs. I don't just pick random minifigs to place in the MOC. Because of the storyline and the characters that are written for the MOC, I knew what sort of minifigs I needed in order to express the concept and the story of the build. So it helped me choose the right minifigs to place into the MOC. And it also allowed me to stage the minifigs. So there's a reason for them to do certain things, or the reason I place them in certain ways, because once again, it's promoting and pushing the narrative of a story. So don't underestimate this. This is also a very fun process, and really, it adds another dimension or layer to your MOC. And if you're creating a MOC from scratch, the more details, whether it's exterior, internal, or minifigs, the more details you add in, the richer your MOC will be, and the better it will be. I hope you enjoyed this video and a look into my process for creating MOCs from scratch. This 5-step process has been very useful for me, and I hope it will be useful to you and it will inspire you to build your own MOCs. One final word of advice. If you're building any kind of Lego building, structure, a restaurant, a house, an office building, ensure that there's a toilet, because many MOCs that did not include a toilet ended up very shitty. So trust me, always build a toilet. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you did not like this video, please give it a thumbs up anyway. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.